Hello and welcome back. It's been more than a week after the horrific Pahalgam massacre, and we're looking at India's options against Pakistan. While we look at those options, we're also looking across the border to see what's going on inside Pakistan. And I have with me, once again, my friend Colonel Anurag Awasthi, a geopolitical expert and an expert on semiconductors. It's two very varied fields. Welcome back, Colonel Awasthi.
Thank you, Sandeep.
What's been going on since that horrific massacre of 26th of April?
So we spoke in the previous episode, and ever since then, you would have seen that the Cabinet Committee for Security met, and thereafter you also saw the Honorable Prime Minister meeting with the three chiefs, the CDS, the National Security Advisor, and of course the Honorable Raksha Mantri, and they have come to a conclusion that the armed forces have been given a free hand in terms of executing, planning the mode, and prosecuting the operations as and when it is deemed fit by them.
Very similar to what happened in
Very
2016 and 2019
Very
as well.
similar. Now we are talking about the military, the part of the entire response. You've seen the Navy has moved out, is carrying out a couple of overtures in the Arabian Sea.
Right.
You have seen there's heightened air activity. The operational readiness of the forces is already on. The LC has been active. The line of control has been
Lots
active.
of small arms firing.
Small arms firing, all
Right.
of that. So essentially, when as you spoke earlier, that people said that Pakistan is revoking the Shimla agreement and things
Yes.
like that. There was no sanctity of LC. LC has been breached so many times in the last 77 years.
Right.
But since the ceasefire, the line of control has got active again.
And interestingly, in the North Arabian Sea, there have been a whole lot of NOTAMs that have been
Yes.
issued.
Yes, that's correct.
Pakistanis are test firing missiles and a lot of naval activity of a kind that we haven't seen ever.
Does it look something like Taiwan to you?
It actually does. Very
Yes.
interesting. And I think the Chinese would be very upset with the Pakistanis for doing what they did. It's taking attention away from Taiwan. But it's a kind of a minefield around Pakistan. Explain to us the significance of all of these NOTAMs that they've built up around the coast of Pakistan.
See, what they're doing is essentially trying to preclude you to enter their exclusive economic
Right,
zone, and
right.
basically they're rattled.
Right.
They are rattled.
course.
So if they're rattled, they have to do all these overtures,
Yeah.
they have to do all these tricks so that you don't come in there.
Right.
Now this is insofar as the military part is concerned.
Yeah.
If you look at the diplomatic part,
Right.
there are hectic parlays. You see our Honorable External Affairs Minister, he's speaking with
Yeah.
a number of diplomats abroad, countries
Right.
abroad, trying to gather consensus, trying to tell them as to what it is. Various briefings are going on.
Yeah.
So
Turning up the diplomatic screws
essentially,
on Pakistan.
it's turning
yeah.
up the diplomatic tide against Pakistan. So
Yeah.
military is all right, the diplomatic part is all right, and then you come to the economic part of it.
Right.
So you've closed your airspace. Now you imagine, if, the Pakistanis closing their airspace, and there was a study in one of the newspapers
Yeah, yeah.
that how much will it hurt the Indian Airlines? It's
Right.
not much.
Right.
Right, but then you look at Pakistan, who has to. Let's look at the Pakistan International Airlines, which flies thrice to Malaysia.
Right.
How does it fly? It does the entire Malabar coast and Coromandel coast and goes all the way.
Right.
So you just
right.
look at it.
They lose more. Right.
It's going to be very difficult. And if you have to fly over the areas of Tibet, etc.,
Yes.
etc., there are flying issues. There are
Right.
conditions which you have to
Right.
look
So
at.
Pakistan is already, being bled economically, if you look
Absolutely.
at it. And that ADIZ, if you can call it that, around Pakistan, this self-imposed ADIZ. Is
Loosely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's imposing economic cost on Pakistan.
A massive cost.
Right.
A massive cost. And you are actually economically bleeding yourself by doing all of this.
Yes.
Now, whether you are rattled, whether you are not rattled, whether you are wanting to do something which is substantial, whether you are
Right.
not wanting to do something which is substantial, either which way, it's bleeding him economically. And then you come to the economic part of it,
Right.
where India has said very clearly
Yeah.
that it will impose its will upon a number of international funding agencies and organizations
Right.
who are funding Pakistan from dole to dole. As we spoke, it is absolute. It's a dole that it works on.
Right.
And then imagine Pakistan again getting back into the FATF list or the grey list. Now that is going to be a little problematic insofar as Pakistan is concerned. So in the last around 6-7 days that we last spoke, a lot of water has flown under the bridge.
Down the Indus.
There you go.
The IWT, that was
The
never on the
IWT,
table.
yes.
And I mean, there are going to be consequences for that as we've demonstrated. But
Yes.
Colonel Awasthi, I was just thinking that the more things change in Pakistan, the more they remain the same. And back in the 80s, they used to say this of Pakistan, that there were 3 A's of, that one, right? 3 A's that controlled Pakistan, the army, of course, Allah, and America.
Yes.
And now there are the 4 M's that control Pakistan.
Yes.
You know which ones they
Yes,
are.
of course.
Yeah?
Yes.
So the first one is, of course, it's Munir, M number 1. The number 2 M is money.
Absolutely.
M number 3 is Malik.
Absolutely.
Interesting new general that we're going to be talking about. And of course, M number 4, we'll keep it to the end of the podcast. But let's talk about M number 1, Asim Munir.
Yes.
Decode for us that bizarre picture of him standing atop a tank and addressing the troops.
Oh yes, so that's quite viral on social media. By that famous caterpillar design of the tracks,
Yeah.
you can make out. I think it's a VT4,
Right.
and the gentleman standing on his side is, I think, Zakaria. He's supposedly the
One corps?
corps commander of
Right.
one corps, which is based at Mangla.
Right.
So essentially, it looks like the troops of 6th Armored Division,
Right.
which he's addressing.
Right.
That star plate is ridiculous.
The
Why
4
would-
stars.
Yeah. Why would you put a star plate on a
Right.
tank?
Right.
So there are a lot of feelings that a lot of people
Yeah.
get. Somebody says that it looks very imposing, this, that, and the other.
Right.
But to me, it looks very bizarre. It looks that what is he thinking? Is it that he's rattled? Is it dilemma? Is it perplexity?
Right.
Is it he's wanting to put in a point that, look, I'm here trying to address the troops, etc., etc.
Right.
So it's quite a bizarre picture to me. It actually means nothing to me.
Right.
Or to anybody who's been in the military uniform for a very long time. This is standard operating procedure. So there's nothing very great about it. I wonder why people are making such a big deal out of it.
Right. But I think it's interesting the timing of this whole thing and the fact that
Timing, yes.
Munir, right? Timing is everything. And Munir is the man of the moment, or rather, he thinks he is. This whole thing, this whole controversy, this whole crisis has been triggered by Munir and, his entire thing of wanting an extension. You believe that's the case now?
It
We were
is.
talking about it the last time.
It is.
He's up for an extension in October.
Yes, but then for that he needs to, appoint his successor.
And that successor
Is the second M,
the second M. And who's that?
Asim Malik.
Asim Malik, interesting guy. DG ISI, very impressive track record. Pakistan Military Academy, Kakul, son of another general, a very illustrious lineage, as very opposed to Asim Munir. Asim Munir came from very humble origins, but Malik is interesting. He is blue-blooded Pakistan military royalty, if you can call it.
Yes, he is. But then you look at the bigger picture behind all of this.
Right.
See, A, he may be looking for a successor.
Right.
B, he's filled a vacuum of the National Security Advisor's post.
I was going to ask you that.
Yes.
Malik, a DG ISI, we've heard of DG ISIs becoming army chiefs and then becoming dictators.
True.
But here you have a DG ISI who's also NSA, National Security Advisor.
Yes.
What are they kind of conveying with that?
It's conveying to you that the erstwhile civilian billet
Right.
is no longer up for grabs. It will be taken up by the military. They will decide what is the national security
okay.
of Pakistan. That's
Right,
one.
right.
The second thing is, if you look at this gentleman's credentials, Malik is from 12 Baluch, the same unit his father commanded.
Right.
And he served quite a lot in Balochistan as well.
Yeah.
And he's a PhD, he's a doctor.
Right.
So he's done his PhD in the US-Pakistan relations as
Interesting.
well as Kashmir and mountain
US Pakistan
warfare.
and
mountain
mountain warfare. Right.
Mountain warfare. Now he is one of those very rare Pakistani generals who's been appointed as DGISI and now NSA.
Right.
Without commanding a corps, he hasn't commanded a corps.
How interesting.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Why would he be appointed to all of this? Because one assumes that, the crore commanders
Yes.
are everything.
The crore
be-all
commanders. Oh yes, of
the
course.
be-all and end-all of
Yes,
everything in Pakistan. How does he get by without commanding a corps?
Maybe he's being touted as a scholar, warrior, and all of that.
Right.
But he's been given a National Security Advisor's billet,
Right.
which has been empty since 2022 sometime.
Yes.
I think the previous
Moeed Yusuf,
absolutely.
a civilian, who's now giving interviews
Absolutely.
on Indian
Absolutely.
platforms.
So
yeah.
he's used that place to be there.
Right.
That's one. The second is he immediately becomes the successor to the present gentleman,
Right.
if I may call him one. The third part is he is in a billet which overlooks the entire national security apparatus. So
Right.
he is a confidant of Asim Munir,
Right.
that is clear.
Yeah.
B, he gets into the national security making apparatus.
Yes.
C, he is supposedly being touted as a scholar warrior, so he is looking at as a counterbalance against his image.
Right.
And D, he is blue blood, as you just mentioned, so
Yes.
he's part of the
He has all
part
the
of
right
plan.
credentials.
He's
He's
part
all-
of the plan.
He's part of the plan, indeed.
He's part of the plan.
You heard the latest joke in Pakistan, right?
Yeah.
What's the time in Pakistan?
AM or PM?
AM, Asim Munir, and it was PM before that, Pervez Musharraf. So
Absolutely.
the more things change in Pakistan, the more they seem
The more they
to
seem
remain
same.
the
Yeah,
same.
yeah, yeah.
But moving on to the third M, and this is the M that literally has driven Pakistan for several decades now. M for money, vitamin M that keeps Pakistan ticking. It's a rentier state, always needs an external funder. It first had the United States in two tranches. The first one was the war against the Soviets in Afghanistan, where the Americans turned a blind eye to whatever Pakistan was doing with India, with Kashmir and Punjab and nuclear weapons. And then it had the global war on terror. That was round two. And then the US kind of loses interest. 2021, it withdraws from Afghanistan, and Pakistan is in a crossroads, in a crisis.
Absolutely.
Will China fill that vitamin M shortage for Pakistan? What does it look like to you?
See, if you look at China, what has China done? While you know that we have friendship which is higher than the Himalayas and deeper than the deepest oceans,
Yes.
it's like a jingle, right?
Right.
It doesn't have substance. It's more of a jingle. But then what have they done? They have been a part of possibly toning down the rhetoric of the United Nations Security Council resolution against Pahalgam.
Right.
That's one. Second, there are nothing, significantly which is being done by Chinese in this regard. Now, interestingly, when you look at China, you're looking at three things insofar as China is concerned. China views Pakistan in three pillars.
Right.
A, access to Afghanistan.
Right.
B, containing India. And C, furthering its own infrastructure and financial ambitions with the CPEC.
Yeah, but the CPEC is a wreck. I mean, it hasn't
It
taken
is,
off, right?
it is, but finally it's Chinese money. It's all about money. So
Right.
whether it is, creating a corridor, or whether it's creating an infrastructure, or whether it is creating an infrastructure which is a part of a bigger game
Right.
to look at Central Asia and the lands beyond. Finally, it's all about money. So China looks at Pakistan in these
So
three.
it's the great game all over again
See,
in Afghanistan.
I'll again, bring your notice to a very old book. It's called The Bear Trap.
Right, of course.
It's quite a seminal.
Mohammed Yusuf and Mark
Atkin.
Atkin, that's right.
So,
The British Army officer.
That's correct. So it very clearly signifies as to what is Afghanistan. So as I mentioned to you before, one of the major pillars of Chinese strategy, or the entire prognosis of understanding Pakistan, is access to Afghanistan.
Right, right.
So that is why I come back again. Now, while this statement must be true in all its dimensions and means today, what has come in the media, but what does Chinese presence mean? Does it mean long-term presence? Does it mean billets? Does it mean a basing? Or it's just somebody's moved in from there or moved out from there?
Right. We don't know.
We don't know what
sure.
it is.
But what we know is that there is a fourth M
Yes.
that Pakistan is all excited about now, and we're going to talk about that today as well. And that M is minerals.
That's correct.
That's the one word that Donald Trump likes to hear.
Oh, yes. Oh,
wherever
yes.
it is. In
You see what's happening in Ukraine.
That's right. He
There
just
you go.
struck a minerals deal with Ukraine. You think Pakistan is trying to do a Ukraine with the minerals that it supposedly has of all the places in Balochistan?
See, I will always tell you one very simple thing, that you should not underestimate your enemy. But in this game, Sandeep, I think Pakistan is more of a cheerleader.
Right.
You know what's a cheerleader, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't own anything at the end of the day. It's just sitting on it.
Right.
Neither is it he's a supplier.
Right.
Neither he's a part of the mining caucus.
Yeah.
He's just sitting on it
Right.
and just harping over it that look, I've got minerals. And where are these minerals? They're in Balochistan.
Yes.
And they're in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa.
Right.
Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, there's a problem.
Yes.
There are freedom fighters in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa today.
Right.
The Balochistan Liberation Army and the freedom fighters
Yeah.
that they are. I mean, anybody who tells them, they are militants, no, they are not militants, they are freedom fighters. Aren't they freedom fighters?
Absolutely.
It's been annexed by Pakistan,
Right.
Balochistan. So if they are freedom fighters, most of the minerals lie there.
So all the minerals are in all these trouble spots in
Yes.
Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, as you
Yes.
said, and of course Afghanistan, which
Yes.
we've been hearing is sitting on trillions worth of minerals, and Donald Trump is absolutely all passionate about finding minerals wherever they are and striking deals for them.
Yes.
How the Pakistan army would wish for all of these minerals to be under Punjab province and not elsewhere. But you see Pakistan striking a deal with the United States. There's a lot of surround sound of late in the last couple of weeks, of, positioning themselves. You see
Yes.
that as being a revenue stream for Pakistan?
It could be. See, there are issues when you're looking at this mineral part of it. One part is the security part of it.
Right.
Can you look at security, a foolproof security? Second, do you have the technology to extract these minerals?
Right.
Three, do you have a market or the particular logistics to extract these minerals and send them elsewhere?
Yeah.
Four, are you going to be giving off these lands for free to people who want to come and do mining?
Well, it's a rentier state. You rent them out.
Yeah,
That's
but then
what they do.
if you look at it, they had something called the Investment Council, which they just unveiled
Right.
some time back. Now their Investment Council, which has come in, it has the Chief of Army Staff is a part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is amazing that can you ever imagine something like that in India, which is a thriving democracy, having a service chief as part of the investment caucus?
But that's the Pakistan army for you. Where it's it's a ministry of everything.
Ministry of everything. That's correct. It's Ministry of everything.
But hypothetically, do you believe that an American presence in Pakistan could do two things? That it could make Pakistan more valuable for the Americans, as it once was during the GWOT, the Global War on Terror, and of course before that the war in Afghanistan. And two, it could complicate India's response to Pakistan because of the presence of American interests in Pakistan.
See, Sandeep, I don't visualize this happening in quick time. Why? Because, as I mentioned to you earlier, this is a very cheerleader concept.
Right.
That, I have got something, I'm sitting on it.
Right.
Do you have it? I mean, have you started doing something like this? Now, there is a Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Mines and Mineral Bill
Right.
2025. I would implore everybody to read it.
Yeah.
What does it mean? It creates more bureaucracies into the system. It creates more licenses which are going to be coming in. It creates more regulatories, more compliances, more chaos into the whole system. So when you are looking at this kind of a structure, you really think that people from outside will come and set up shop in quick time, get into processes, put in their technologies there, harness those minerals, thereafter, refine them, then transport them through a particular logistics route, and then send them for, critical technologies and this, that and the other.
Right.
It's a little far-fetched effort. So when you're looking at a shorter time period,
Right.
and you're looking at around 2-3 years, it doesn't augur well to me in the timelines. What happens after that remains to be seen. While it's not only the Americans who will look at these, critical minerals and rare earths,
Right.
because then there's China on the side, and
Yes.
China still makes 95% of the production of rare earths and minerals in the world.
Absolutely.
You get back to how it has put a blanket ban on gallium and germanium.
Yes.
It's a block.
Which explains the US desperation to get those
There you go.
critical minerals.
And then
wherever
when
they-
you're a technology powerhouse and you're creating the technology for the world, these critical minerals are gold for you. They are gold. Was the the premier of the Chinese Communist Party? He mentioned if Middle East has oil, China has rare earths.
Right.
So what do?
How far-sighted to say that back then. But back again to Pakistan and India's options, we're looking at a very tense state of affairs. How do you think India's response is going to be this time around? I mean, we can only look into the crystal ball and guess. We have no idea what the response could be. But given the horror of what unfolded in Pahalgam, the way the tourists, the Indian civilians from all parts of India were they were segregated and they were murdered mercilessly. Segregated, identified on the basis of religion, and they were killed. There is going to be a very strong Indian response. Do you believe it's going to be different from previous times in 2016 and 2019? Is it going to be long lasting? What are the contours of this new blueprint that could be unveiled shortly?
I would, choose to answer this in parts. When you look at the diplomatic and the economic part, you're as it is bleeding him, and you're going to be bleeding him further. When you're looking at the people-to-people contact part, finally people make the entire decisions. And while it may be a two-nation theory which is being debunked by a lot of people across the border, finally there are people-to-people ties, and you have cut those ties. The third part is, then you're looking at the military part of it, the options are so many which are on the table.
Right.
But the whole idea is, there's this old quote that when an eagle at, 12,000 feet looks at a prey on the ground and sees a rat, the eagle's quality of dive and the sluggishness of the prey is not why this system happens, it is the timing. So all is about timing, how it happens. Now, whether it is a short incursion, whether it is a repeat of 2016, 2019, whether it is an all-out war, whether it is a naval blockade of some way, whichever way it is. But the whole idea is, if you keep Pakistan on tender hooks for a very long time, keep it deployed where it is, in whatever manner it is going to economically bleed him. It doesn't have the wherewithal to be bled like this. And somewhere down the line, I think the Indian establishment, whether it is the political, whether it is the bureaucratic, whether it is military or whether it is diplomatic, has somewhere down the line realized that the best response in this scenario is now not going to be death by 1,000 cuts, but it will be death by 10,000 cuts.
Right.
So that death by 10,000 cuts is going to be bleeding Pakistan in some manner or the other. You will see it manifesting itself in times to come, whether it is in terms of electoral aspects, whether it is in terms of cultural aspects, whether it is in terms of monetary aspects, whether it is in terms of military aspects. I mean, all options are open. So now it is going to be like this, is what my sense tells me.
Right, death by 10,000 cuts.
Absolutely. An old Chinese torture, by the way. Again, a collusivity somewhere down the line.
China is always in the room, whichever way you look at it.
Whichever way you look at it.
Thank you very much, Colonel Awasthi. We'll keep coming back to you for these insights on the unfolding situation on the subcontinent. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
What a pleasure, Sandeep. Thank you very much.